Okay. Oh, hey, Ben. Ben Soto with the development team, and then we've got Jack Foreman, who's with the architectural firm of BKB. And I think what we've done is we have submitted copies of the plans that the commission has seen those. We filed a BZA application, Board of Zoning Adjustment application.
I'm going to just ask you to come over to that side so that all the commissioners can see you.
Okay.
By your horse.
Oh, all right, then I will. All right. Well, Chico, then I may need you to.
I'll switch it for you, no problem.
Chico needs to be Vanna White.
All right. So we are proceeding with the development that's on 4th Street north of K, mid-block. And the lot area is 12,378 square feet. The zoning is DD C2C. That's Downtown Development District zoning for the site, and it encourages maximization of housing. This is in a housing priority area. You see the rendering of the building there. It's 110 feet in height, has 124 dwelling units. We are asking for relief from the Board of Zoning Adjustment for this mid-block site. We'll get into the technical areas of relief in just a second. It's an L-shaped site, and that causes some of the issues that we have, plus being a mid-block building. It's south of the right-of-way where L Street was closed, and that has some major utilities in it which have an impact on the northern end of the site and its development. We have relief from the side yard.
Chip, they can't hear you.
Oh, you can't,
There you go.
how is it now? So I need to hold it very close to me. All right, thank you. How is that now?
Better.
Is that loud enough?
Yes.
And so we have relief from the side yard, that we're providing a 12-foot side yard, a 16-foot side yard is required. That is because of the location of Pepco facilities in 4th Street, and that facility must be open to the sky. So that when we have that area, it shows, if you could pull up the site plan, we'll show them where the side yard is. This is the side yard area, the 12-foot side yard. And why don't you put it up, so north is up? No, there you go. That's it. So you just set it down here. Okay, so now we have north facing up. This is 4th Street. K Street is down here. This is the old L Street right-of-way, which has been closed for decades. There are facilities that come in, the Pepco facilities, the closest that they come into the site are here. So we want to leave this side open. It's a 12-foot width. The zoning requirement is 16 feet. If we were to move that, you'd move this whole area here, the parking ramp, and that causes all kinds of dysfunction within the building and in the court. So that's what's happening with the side yard. Now the rear yard, since this is the front of the building along 4th Street, the rear yard is in this portion of the building. We want to maximize retail space. This is a dead area back here. Otherwise, if we were to provide the rear yard, then what you would have is sort of a dead space back here. And we think that that's not good for the community or anybody, because this is all privately owned property all the way around the site. It has no alley access, so that you've got that situation. Then with respect to parking, let's get the plan. With the parking, we've maximized parking on this level of the site. As you can see, we've gone all the way out to the property lines, have a bike storage area, and this shows the ramp coming down into the garage. If we were to not get the parking relief that we want, we would have to create another ramp system in this site, and it would be extremely inefficient and significantly reduce the number of parking spaces on each level, and it would be a hardship and a detriment to the project to do that. We are providing 25 parking spaces, 35 spaces are required. Next, for the loading for the site, once again we can see from this plan, the DDOT requested that we provide the loading on the street because they understood that there's no way that we could put a 55-foot berth in here and turn a truck around in this site plan to have front-in, front-out access. So they have said that they would like us to have a loading zone, which is very common in all commercial zones. You see that all throughout the city. You have a loading zone at the front door of the building. That's what we would have here. Then with respect to the roof structure, let's see if we've got a roof plan. No, that one won't. Let's see. Go up here. These are all elevations. Let's see if this is the roof plan. Here we go. Okay.
This touches.
All right, with respect to the roof plan, we have two areas that have roof structure. They are remotely located as they need to be under the code for a residential building. They are of equal height, but they do not set back a distance equal to their height from the area that is on here on the northern end of the site. So we need roof structure setback relief. We've had those on many residential buildings just because of the remoteness of the stairwells. It is something that is commonly requested, we believe, and it's a special exception. We believe that we've met the burden of proof on that. As we move this roof structure over, then what would end up happening is that we do not have a core and a good placement within the building. So that's just an overview of the zoning areas of relief. We do not believe that there's any adverse impact as a result of granting any of these relief. And that concludes our presentation, where we have the architect here for questions. We've got the developers here for questions.
I have a few questions. Story of my life. On this sheet, if this is the one I'm looking at, the one with the pink, if anybody's looking.
Which page are you looking at?
I don't know, does it have a page number?
Yes. So I'll show you which one it is. A101.
101? The pink area goes all the way back on the property,
Yes.
but doesn't someone else own the property behind there to the highway? You know,
Yes, that's
okay.
correct.
You're not showing that at all? How many feet is left for them for their, is that,
That width of that property back there is probably around, I'm sorry?
It varies between 70 and 80 feet.
Yeah, back in that area, where this area is back here. And what are,
Jack, it's Skinny's, it's
Yeah,
Skinny's.
the
it's
street
Skinny's-
angles.
Yeah, 395 angles, and it's Skinny's to about 18 feet. The property actually.
because to your left, where you're saying all the Pepco stuff is,
It
That's-
angles like this.
yeah,
yeah, and then to the left of that is, there's someone building a building there, they've already come before us for that. And behind your building and all the way up to K Street is where they're putting their building. I'm just
Right.
curious as to, you know, how you can figure that this big, the building is gonna have enough space. And the other question is, whatever makes you think that anyone will go shopping or need retail there? I mean, I know the city requires that you have to have retail, but that's a side street, no other retail around. What are you thinking in terms of what might go there?
you want to answer what you think would go there?
I think we're looking at restaurant use.
For real?
Yeah, really. Yeah, we think there's a pretty good demand for a restaurant.
Not in that.
My constituents are across the street on New York Avenue, so they walk south. They are very excited by this because all they talk about is all these other buildings not being built with retail, like the Meridian and all that, and, you know, Neo West and everything. So they're pretty excited for something,
And-
whatever it is. I mean, retail. They love it, so.
And we, hopefully, Chip, I'm not feeling thunder, we didn't have a pre-meeting with the Office of Planning, and they like the addition of more retail as well, because they think there will be a.
Of course they do, they want a tax base. I mean, reality is reality. I just think that particular location is completely surrounded by residential. You would, unless people are going specifically to whatever you're putting in there, they're not going back there. Because the retail is up on the next street and down 3 or 4 blocks surrounding. This is a very unique little spot to have retail. I can't even imagine what you'd put in there. Do you have an idea? Have you surveyed?
Well, City Vista is really only a block away.
Yeah, no, I live in
The
City
Safeway's a
Vista.
block and a half away. The affordable housing project across the street is actually owned by Stewart as well. We expect that to be redone at some point.
You mean Museum Square?
What's that?
You mean Museum Square?
Yes.
Because they've, okay.
Paradigm's working their second phase. We think there's a critical mass of people there that fast casual, really restaurants what we get most interested.
Well, you ought to get in touch with the Mount Vernon SID and get a copy of their retail survey, because at this point, people are saying they want other things beside restaurants. They're not interested in any more restaurants in the area. They want a pet store. They want a bakery. They want bicycle space back. They want other things that will keep the community. People come in to go to a restaurant once, twice, if it's fantastic, maybe 5 times a year. They're not coming back regularly unless you've got a bar that's sensational and a happy hour that's going to be hot to trot. But all of these restaurants in the area have a lot of stuff. What we need in that area is other than restaurants. And I think you need to look into that because I don't see you being really successful with retail there. I don't.
We still love it.
We'll consider all those options.
Yeah.
But I have a question. One of my constituents asked, if everything goes well, what do you think is going to be your groundbreaking in terms of timing?
I think we're looking at August, September this year.
Okay.
We've submitted for the demo permits. We expect them within 4 to 6 weeks. Has anybody been down to DCRA lately and understood that you throw your hands up in the air as to possibly when you're gonna get a permit from them? So, August, September, obviously that can be pushed into September, November, but we'd like to have the foundation work done in the warmer weather and not be trying to dig in a wet hole.
I don't really have any problems with the construction in the building, but you may want to meet with some of the neighbors who have been living in construction zones for the past 5 years, and they are up in arms about something else going up that's going to take another 2 years and be very noisy, especially the L building and the new Meridian building, not the one.
Paradigm's Meridian and the Lyric you're speaking about?
No, we're down the L Street side where you are planning to put this building. That Meridian at, what is it, Mount Vernon Triangle, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
They've been living in nothing, since that building opened, they've been living in nothing but a construction zone. So you may get some very negative feedback if there's gonna be another construction site. I just mentioned it. You know, you might wanna have some community forums because people are sick and tired of construction.
We expect to go meet with Claire, with Mount Vernon. She said that, yeah, we have a meeting set up with her.
What I'm concerned with
You want to come here
is,
first.
the 36 parking spaces, reduced down to 25. You got 41 bicycle spaces, plus you got 41 bike stores in. And that area there, parking is like essential. And we trying to figure out, put more units in, more people, know where to park 25 parking spaces.
I disagree with you, Alvin, because 40% of the people who live in this area do not own cars, and they're not interested in owning them. We can't even sell the parking spaces that are in that area now. They're vacant. So people, at least in this one area, are not interested in parking as much as other areas in this ANC.
So it's not a problem parking down there.
25 will be sufficient.
25.
As I had mentioned to Mr. Glasgow when we had discussed this project, my normal knee-jerk reaction is to not want to lose a single parking space, but when he carefully went through the very significant challenges in terms of getting down to a second level of parking on this particular uniquely shaped lot, I can understand why they're asking for and are justified in requesting relief. And I'll echo Commissioner Nigro's comment in terms of retail. We have an area that's dynamic right now, and people along 7th and 9th Streets are, there are 4 to 6 potential tenants for every retail space that's available. I'm pretty confident that if you willed it, they will come. So, other comments or questions from members of the commission? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, this project and this location is in Commissioner Alfreda Judd's single member district. Would you like to make a motion, or would you like me to make one for you? I move that Advisory Neighborhood Commission 6E, support the zoning relief requested to allow the construction of a 10-story residential, actually mixed-use building at 1031 Court Street Northwest, and that we communicate that support to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. And I would ask for a second.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to 465 New York Avenue. This is request for support for public space permits for the construction of a new Homewood Suites Hotel.
If you're meeting with Claire, you can get that, but I can
Sort of
send
like
it.
a box, you know, just with heights for it.
There is somebody who's
Folks, this is a very small room, so if you get to have side conversations, please take it outside.
Good evening, my name is Scott Fuller, I'm with IBG Partners. Here to discuss the hotel project at 465 New York Avenue. IBG Partners has been very active on this block for many years. We were the developers of the Yale Scheme Laundry condominium, and more recently the Yale West apartments. This is sort of the last development site on this block, this 400 block of New York Avenue. Just to orient you, the site here is in red. The Safeway is directly across the street here, and the new Bizzuto project that just started recently. Tonight, the issue that we're going to be discussing is a curb cut on L Street Northwest. Before we get into the details of the curb cut, let me give you just the overview of the hotel itself. And then I'm going to turn it over to Nick Giordano, who's the architect. Basically, this is a 163-room Homewood Suites hotel, which is a Hilton product. We got this under contract back in 2012, and before we closed on the acquisition of the property, we wanted to make sure, or at least get some comfort level, that we'd be able to get a curb cut in the front of the building on the L Street frontage. There is some New York Avenue frontage, and then the L Street takes off on the second half of the site and goes off to the west. It was important to know that we had a curb cut because the alternative would be to having a curb cut on L Street would be to have cars approach from the back of the property, which is very, very difficult to get to. It would take traffic through the neighborhood and back through the alleys. We're going to show you how that circulation would look. And in addition, there's a substantial grade change from New York Avenue to the rear of the property that would mean that if we have cars coming into the garage in the back of the property, they'd be coming into the second story of the building. And they'd have to carve down through the first floor to get to the basement, which didn't work very well. So as a consequence of the importance of the curb cut, we went before DDOT, even before we bought the property, and said we'd like a preliminary review of a curb cut in this location. We also came before the predecessor agency of 6E, which was 2C at the time, and presented this to them. Both 2C and DDOT were generally supportive of this curb cut. I think one of the conditions in the support letter that we got from 2C had to do with parking restrictions on New York Avenue, and we're going to talk about that in a little more detail. And we are in agreement with 2C on their position on that. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Nick Giordano. Nick, you can talk. You think I've covered everything?
I think you covered everything.
On the architectural side. Well, then why don't we move to the traffic analysis that we did on the curb cut. We can drill down into the details of how the traffic flows and how the curb cut will work with the local traffic.
I'm Jason Chetler, I'm representing Wells and Associates. So we worked with DDOT for a number of months back in 2012. It was March to July to determine the most appropriate access, as you said. And DDOT generally supports our design. The final details of the design will be worked out during the public space process. We'll also be doing a preliminary design review meeting, so that's a PDRM with DDOT. So based on DDOT's input and feedback, we looked at where the location should be selected, and we found the best would be the location on L Street. It'll function as a right-in and right-out driveway only, and ensuring that that will occur, we looked at the island here, and we enlarged the island just so that no vehicles can create a left turn in or a left out. And in doing so, we believe that is the safest maneuver.
So here's the curb cut that we're talking about. This is the garage entrance exit. So cars coming out of the garage would immediately encounter this island, so they'd have to take a sharp right onto L Street. If they wanted to get on New York Avenue, they'd have to go down another block, turn and come down 6th Street, and then they could pick up New York Avenue that way. So nobody is going to be able to come out and cross the L Street traffic and then get on New York Avenue.
And in doing so, this will create, we changed the signage here. This is a right turn only lane, and instead of this being a shared through right, this will be a through lane only. There'll be no negative impacts to the traffic at this intersection. From 2 lanes to 1 lane, there's not significant traffic through there, so we believe that'll be efficient as well. And then we're proposing 1 to 2 spaces for the curbside pickup and drop off for the hotel. That's the loading for the hotel guests. And in doing so, we believe that'll be efficient for the hotel, and it's much better than requiring guests to access through the alley.
Just real quick on that point, DDOT was adamant that this is the sort of imaginary intersection of New York Avenue and L Street. You can see where it bends and L Street takes off. DDOT was adamant that they didn't want any upstream loading and unloading for the hotel, because this is an important lane that needs to be kept open during rush hour. So since there was no upstream loading and unloading, well, there are other restrictions that would prevent loading and unloading at the actual driveway itself, and then in this area, and then here's another driveway to a single-family home. So basically, that pushed the loading and unloading down to this area, which is approximately 2 car lengths.
Yes.
Here, so I just wanted to make that point.
So again, we did look at providing access from the alley. The significant grade changes, just did not make that feasible. And then again, from the traffic perspective, we didn't think that the alley was good for the neighborhood alley access. And I just have a brief overview here. So if we did have access from the alley, the routing of the vehicles would occur coming all through the neighborhood here, and it would add some traffic through the neighborhood, especially with the one-way street and so forth. By adding the curb cut at L Street, the traffic westbound could access the right in and the right out, and then all movements to New York Avenue can occur at 6th Street. There will be minor traffic that would occur just coming eastbound on New York Avenue, but we thought that was safer at the intersection as opposed to creating a left turn with opposing traffic on New York Avenue, not at an intersection. So in looking at all of this, we will remove, just with the way this proposed layout is, from 2 lanes to 1 lane and the loading, we're looking to remove the parking here, the 2-hour parking sign from here right now back to the WMATA bus stop. It's about 7 to 9 spaces. And because that's the restriping, so we have to remove the parking restrictions at that point. And further back, we have a trap lane that exists today where the vehicles coming through would either have to make a right with the 2 lanes. When you make it 1 lane, the vehicles either stay to the right or stay through without the shared through right lane. So this would be safer maneuvers as well.
Michael, let me stop you on the point about the parking space. So right now, there is 2-hour off-peak parking along here. And you're saying we wouldn't be disturbing that parking condition in front of Yale West or in front of the condos. But you're saying there would be 7 to 9 spaces eliminated where the hotel is?
Yes, right at the corner here, because there are 2 lanes that are currently coming through, there are some parking spaces here right now.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yes.
There's no, the bus stop is further down,
Yes.
for those parking spaces, there's really only 2 parking spaces there, there's not, 7 to 9
No,
would be
I
that
think-
whole.
I think it's only a couple of spaces, it's not that much.
So,
Just two.
if you don't pass Yale West driveway, there's like 2 parking spots. If you go past Yale West driveway,
There's a whole bunch.
there's a whole bunch.
And we don't intend to disturb those.
Those people pass the Yale West one.
Oh, my apologies,
Okay, all right.
yes. Just for this maneuver, these spaces directly adjacent to the site, to be able to make this right turn lane, those would have to be removed.
Now, DDOT had actually talked about eliminating the spaces in front of Yale West. We have no reason to ask for that, and we're certainly happy to support the ANC on their position on that, which is to limit those spaces. So that's the way we're gonna go into the public space, is saying we're not asking for those spaces to be eliminated, we don't think it's necessary.
At this
Particularly
point,
off-peak. I mean, during rush hour, you probably want the flow to be able to go through there.
Well, they're not allowed to park there during rush hour.
Exactly, but off-peak, there's no reason there couldn't be parking.
yeah, so that doesn't negatively affect our site whatsoever beyond that.
So Mr. Russo's driveway, is it right up against the curb, the new curb?
No, the townhouse, the historic townhouse, which is gonna be moved to
right.
this side of the site, sits here.
Mhm.
Here's Russo's driveway, and then here's the new driveway to the hotel.
It's 27 feet between. So it's not enough space for any loading here, which is why we moved it.
But when you
further.
say like loading, is it like, is his
Taxi
driveway
cabs.
gonna be
Just
parked?
cabs.
Okay, so you're not talking about like laundry truck
loading.
coming
No,
out.
the loading will
It's
be
in the back,
happening in
so
the back.
yes, I thought, I wasn't sure when we said that, if his driveway, he knew how he is. All right.
Are there any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
I don't need a mic. I envision that whole construction time to be a traffic nightmare at the corner of Fifth. And I don't know how to make a suggestion to be positive about it, but that is gonna be a disaster. I see that coming. The traffic lights are already a disaster. And with the fact that DDOT is going to be doing on the next block a rerouting and a redoing of the traffic pattern to go into the tunnel. I mean, it's just gonna be a nightmare, that's number one. I see, I mean, I don't have a problem with the cut through and all that stuff, but I do see, people, having to deal with cement trucks and the digging out of, going underground and all that is gonna be a ton of dump trucks and a ton of stuff. I'm scared. I think that's going to be really a traffic nightmare on that corner. When you are complete, when your building is complete, that triangle that is just striped,
This area here?
yeah.
Not yet.
Do you think you could green it or put some flowers or something in there so it would be a little bit more attractive than the striped street that, is that part of your plan?
It's currently grass. It's
No, it's not
striped
grass,
now.
it's
We're
just
gonna make it
stripes.
a curb area with grass in the middle. So we're taking away the striping, adding curbs, putting grass.
So it'll be green.
So this whole area right here is green.
So, Marge, also to alleviate your concerns, I know this team quite well, and Scott and I have had many conversations. I have a handicapped person in my building who has to access that area, so Scott is very used to my phone calls and all that, and my constituents are very I make sure my constituents know what is going on, so if anything goes afoul.
We're gonna maintain sidewalk
Yeah.
access throughout the construction.
Yeah.
Like we did with Yale West.
Yeah, and they did a really nice job with the West,
Okay.
so,
Same contractor too.
yeah.
and be done now.
Further questions from the commission? Hearing none, this property is in Commissioner Nigro's single-member district. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. So are we gonna support all your extra public space requests, or just only this driveway one?
This is just the curb cut.
The curb cut.
Yes.
Well, but actually, we do
Because we got a
have,
request for
you know,
everything else.
from DDOT,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
yes, we go
So-
through everything. So we've got
Oh.
paving of the alley, curbs and gutters, driveway closing existing,
Oh, let's-
paving through bicycle racks, handrails, landscaping, new trees, tree plantings, tree removal, projections, portions, steps, overhead work, streetlight installation, you name it.
All right, here we go.
There we are.
Michael, why don't you walk me through?
So this is our streetscape improvements for 465. We're doing the same treatment as Yale West, which is the London pavers on New York Avenue. Then we switched to the same treatment that L Street has, which is the brick pavers. There's currently a tree there now. We're gonna take it out and put it back in to facilitate the moving of this townhouse. The townhouse will be situated the same as it is over here, right on the lot line. It'll have the stairs projecting into public space and another stair down into this in public space. Also has this little bay window projecting into public space. We're creating tree pits right here that unfortunately won't have trees, just bushes, because there's just sewer line that runs right underneath it. We're not allowed by DC Water to have street trees there. Our entrance is off of New York Avenue here, and then we created some nice landscape areas in front of the building. We have two streetlights, new streetlights, one at the intersection of the entrance to Yale West, and then another one at our driveway entrance. And there's also some bike racks right here at the entrance. I think that might be about it.
Does the hotel allow animals?
Homewood Suites, I don't know the answer to that, Mark.
If they do, then I would hope that you would have some sort of an area where dogs could be walked or whatever, because the neighborhood just can't tolerate anymore.